Hello, everyone. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of the Zelda podcast, the Kokiri Chronicles. I'm your host, Born of Kokiri, or Kokiri for short, and this is a very special Zelda podcast where I do this every third day of the month. Also, why did I do this for 2? Yes, pick number 3, my lord. But yes, welcome to a very special podcast where I do this every third day in the month. I talk about theories, lore, references, and Easter eggs, all that good jazz. I'm also doing this right now on Twitch, but in the next day, it should be uploaded to YouTube. So anyone on Twitch chat, definitely remind me if my music is loud or too quiet or perfect. Definitely please let me know. But anybody, if you guys are watching this over on YouTube, please don't forget to do the following by liking, sharing, subscribing, all that good jazz, as it really does help me out. And also, come say hi to me on Twitch. I stream on Twitch every Monday to Thursday at 7 p.m. Central, and I definitely would love to meet you guys. But welcome in, y'all. So today's definitely going to be a very interesting topic, though. So last month in April, I was joined by my mod Sora850 and my good friend Landy over from the Landy Lodge, as we talked about the origin of the moon from Majora's Mask, which, by the way, I want to say thank you guys so much for tuning into that episode. It received a lot of positive feedback from you guys, so thank you. Really helps me a lot. You guys are incredible, and I'm excited to keep doing more of these, but I know that today's topic is definitely going to reach out to all you Wind Waker fans out there, because I know we definitely have a lot of friendos who definitely do love Wind Waker. Because today, I'm definitely going to grab my baton today. I mean, I'm not conducting any wins. I mean, hopefully I don't. But, so anyway, we are going to be talking about Hyrule's Great Flood. And now, if anybody who does not know, this is definitely one of the most important history pieces throughout the Zelda timeline. As, of course, this definitely ties into the events before the Wind Waker, though. But also, if you are a Wind Waker fan, make sure to like, share, subscribe, all that jazz, and tell me and answer this question. What is your favorite dungeon? What is your favorite dungeon in the Wind Waker? Also, reading from Twitch chat, Valkyrie says, please don't conduct any wins of any kind. You know what? I'll try my best not to, though. I'll try my best, Valkyrie. I'll try. But anyway, so let's go ahead. Let's get started. Let's dive in. No pun intended. So, let's dive in. We're talking about Hyrule's Great Flood. But first, we need to do a very quick recap. Because first of all, I believe that this discussion is very important. Because I believe it ties into the events to today's topic that we're talking about. So, here we go. So, we all know Ocarina of Time definitely is responsible for playing a very important role throughout the Zelda timeline. Being able to split the timeline into 3 different parts to where most of them are just kind of, in my opinion, what-if scenarios. So to quickly summarize the first 2, the Fallen timeline definitely summarizes that, of course, Link, the hero of time, was defeated in battle by the Demon King, Ganondorf. So, all Princess Zelda and the sages could do was just to use their magic and their powers to just seal the evil king away into the Sacred Realm. But, however, they did not know that in the end, this was going to be a very huge mistake. Because we got to keep in mind for one important thing. And I promise y'all, we definitely will come to the Great Flood. I promise. But we gotta keep this in mind. At the end of Ocarina of Time, when Ganondorf gets sealed away, the Gerudo King still inherits the Triforce of Power in his hand. And he even states this while he's sealed away. And then, of course, threatens both Zelda, Link, and the sages because of his imprisonment, stating that one day he will find a way to break out as long as he inherits the Triforce of Power. So, because of this, of Ganondorf being sealed away in the Sacred Realm, he fully corrupts the entire realm and shrouds into darkness, thus becoming the Dark World that we know today from A Link to the Past and he actually turns into his beast form from the final boss in Ocarina of Time. Which from there, of course, starts the beginning of the Imprisoning War, which leads up to the event all the way from A Link to the Past, all the way to the very bottom of the Fallen Timeline, all the way to Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, which is a game we don't talk about here in this household. And then finally, we have the Child Timeline. The hero time definitely gets sent back into 7 years into the past to reclaim the childhood that he lost. Because, when you do think about it, as far as like the hero of time, he didn't get to have one. He didn't get to have a childhood. He didn't get to have one. And during this time that he spent in the Kokiri Forest, the kid was just a complete outcast because he felt like he was able to fit into his home because, he thought that he was part of the Kokiri way before he knew that he was a Hylian. And not many people didn't want to be around him because he didn't have a fairy. Well, except for Saria, of course. And then fate chose him to act so quickly when he was just a little boy. And then he goes on these trials to help Princess Zelda to prevent Ganondorf from coming to Hyrule, to saying that Ganondorf is going to swear allegiance to the king, but thus of course, takes over Hyrule, killing its king, and thus coming to Hyrule to take the Triforce of Power for himself. But mostly, this definitely goes all the way back to where the Hero of Time later gets thrust into 7 years into the future. So he's in this big, grown-up body, but in his mind, he's still a kid. So now that, of course, the king, the Gerudo King of Evil, is defeated, now we all know that, of course, Hyrule did not need a hero anymore. So Zelda had to send him home, and going back into the beginning of the Child Timeline, a young hero of time makes his way to the castle courtyard in Hyrule Castle, warning a young Princess Zelda, saying, hey, Ganondorf is coming. Because we gotta keep in mind, y'all, in the Child Timeline, Ganondorf is still alive. Sure, of course, in another timeline, to where, one, either he kills Link, or he's defeated and he's sealed away. But in the Child Timeline, he's still alive. So Link had to prevent all of this from happening. So he warns Princess Zelda, saying, hey, Ganondorf is coming to Hyrule. He says that he's going to swear allegiance to your father, the king, but in turn, he's actually going to betray your father, thus killing him, and thus coming to Hyrule to claim the Triforce of his own to be an evil ruler. Which, of course, she then entrusts him with the Ocarina of Time. And then he ends up into this mysterious parallel world or universe that we know as Termina from Majora's Mask. But during the events of Majora's Mask, Hyrule is actually in a massive war. So it's the royal family versus the Gerudos. And when you do think about it, before the events of Twilight Princess, a lot of things are just completely destroyed. And then Ganondorf is definitely sealed away, and thus his execution begins to form. And that is just the rest of history. Now, the most important timeline that we are talking about. The adult timeline. This one, to me, is very important. Because for this timeline, the Hero of Time defeats Ganondorf into a fight. He is victorious. He's won. So, with the help of Princess Zelda and the rest of the sages, they used their magic to seal the evil king away. And they thought, okay, this is definitely going to be good enough. So, hopefully he doesn't end up breaking out. But we knew that one day this was not going to happen. Because Princess Zelda states at the end of Ocarina of Time that they no longer need a hero anymore. Because Hyrule's in peace, Ganondorf sealed away, so the Hero of Time, he doesn't have a home to go to, so where is he supposed to go? So Princess Zelda actually had to send the Hero of Time back home to reclaim the 7 years that he had lost. And thus, he ends up in the Child Timeline. So in the adult timeline, he's gone. He's gone. Now, in the adult timeline before the events of Wind Waker, Hyrule is completely at peace. The people of Hyrule know that they don't have to suffer once more because now that Ganondorf is sealed away. But here's one thing that happens. Since the Hero of Time went back home to his own time, to where he's no longer in the adult timeline anymore, this definitely results into a problem. Ganondorf, the evil king, and this definitely goes into the events of the opening story from the beginning of Wind Waker. The great king of evil who conquered Hyrule in Ocarina of Time and definitely wanted to take over the land. His seal begins to weaken. It fully begins to weaken because, again, I gotta remind y'all again that Ganondorf still wields the Triforce of Power. He hasn't lost it. The only Triforce pieces that are gone are, of course, the Triforce of Courage and the Triforce of Wisdom. But I will get to that in a minute. So, we gotta talk about this. Ganondorf breaks free from his seal. Now that it's fully weakened, the hero time from the adult timeline, he's gone. He's nowhere to be around. So, Ganondorf comes back and shrouds Hyrule into complete darkness. So, according to the opening story from Wind Waker, the people believed that the hero of time would come to return and to save them since Ganondorf is back. But the hero of time did not appear because since he's not in this timeline, he's completely vanished. So the hero of time could not return to come save them. And so, what did the people have to do? The only option they had to result in was that they couldn't do they couldn't do much, and all they could do was just appeal to the gods, hoping that another hero will come to challenge Ganondorf into a fight. So, now we need to talk about this. So the people now appeal to the gods, praying that something's going to be done, something is about to happen, somebody's going to come to Hyrule, another hero is next in line. Of course, we don't know who, but I know you guys know who in Wind Waker, ready to challenge the evil king once again. However, now that the gods have heard the people's prayers, this definitely is notified by the king of Hyrule himself, King Daphnis Nohansen Hyrule, which of course later on he reveals himself to be the king of Red Lions, the talking bow on the hero Wind's journey, who is more of an excellent companion and a father figure to Link. But we gotta keep in mind, the King Daphnis was informed of this, and so he had to make sure that the same results did not happen again and again and again. So, what do you have to do? He had to make sure that Ganondorf doesn't come back. He has to make sure that Ganondorf meets his demise. So, he definitely says a prayer, tries to make a wish to the golden gods that he wants Ganondorf to meet his demise. But we have to keep in mind for one important thing. In order to fully grant a wish, it is said throughout Hyrule history that you need to have all three pieces of the Triforce in order to have your wish granted by the golden goddesses from above. Because the golden goddesses, they had to obey their own law. They couldn't just bend any rules or anything. All the laws that they formed when they created the land of Hyrule, they had to be obeyed. And they had to be obeyed and not completely interfered. So, keep this in mind. The King Daphnis, again, he only had two Triforce pieces. The Triforce of Courage and the Triforce of Wisdom. So, the goddesses knew about this, that the king knew that he wanted Ganondorf to meet his demise. But in turn, the king only had two pieces. So in order to prevent Ganondorf from becoming the one in charge of taking over the land of Hyrule, and thus beginning to plague it and destroy it all over again, this is where the Great Flood of Hyrule begins. The Great Flood of Hyrule is starting. And so because of this, we have to know one thing. Ganondorf is going to drown with Hyrule. Ganondorf is fully going to drown with Hyrule, and that was a wish granted by the Golden Goddesses. Yeah, they heard about the king's replies and the people of Hyrule stating that they want Ganondorf gone and to meet the demise. But again, the wish could not be fully granted because the king only had did not have all 3 pieces. He only had 2 of them. So he's informed of this, and he warns Princess Zelda to let the other people of Hyrule know, saying, I heard a cry from the Golden Goddesses. A great flood is coming to Hyrule. So I'm going to order you to remind you that this flood is coming. So you need to remind the people of Hyrule to get out of here and tell them to evacuate to the tallest mountaintops in order for them to survive. Because this water that most of the people did not know, this is not just your ordinary water that you can definitely drink or just swim in. This water that was plagued by the Golden Goddesses for this flood, this water was completely unnatural. And in return, we got to keep in mind that this is the same land of Hyrule from Ocarina of Time. So this land is getting ready to be wiped out. It's ready to be fully coveted in water. It is going to be flooded. So what happens? In my theory, the King Daphnis splits the 2 Triforces into separate pieces. He splits Princess Zelda's Triforce of Wisdom, and thus orders her to make sure that she evacuates and escapes. And because of this, we have to know that she had to go into hiding to prevent Ganondorf from finding her. So from there, we all know that she turns into her alter ego, also known as the pirate girl Tetra. Because when you do think about it, in Wind Waker, in order for Tetra to return to her true form as Princess Zelda, she needed the whole Triforce of Wisdom to be complete. And that's why King Daphnis was able to complete the Triforce of Wisdom in Hyrule Castle and turning Tetra back into Princess Zelda. So, he splits the Triforce of Wisdom to prevent Ganondorf from trying to find it, including finding Zelda herself. So, Zelda, now known as Tetra, escapes from the ocean, which of course now later becomes the Great Sea. So she can go into hiding to prevent Ganondorf from finding her. And what about the Triforce of Courage? The Triforce of Courage becomes split into 8 different pieces, which later on results in the Triforce Star Quest, which I know that a lot of us Wind Waker fans can admit that quest is a pain in the ass. Whether you're playing both the GameCube version or the AC version, we know how troublesome, how annoying that quest can really be. So anyone who has played Wind Waker, you know. So, diving into the Great Flood. The whole entire land of Hyrule is completely wiped out. This flood killed so many people. A lot of people died, and not to mention a lot of people didn't even survive. Now, let me give you a reminder of what actually were the events, the results of actually what happened during the events of the Great Flood. Let me tell you something. So most of us are familiar with the Zora tribe, the fish-like folk who definitely need water in order to survive. However, because of this water was completely unnatural, this water from the Golden Goddesses was going to kill the Zoras. So, they had to force themselves to evolve into the bird-like people that we know today, the Rito, in order to survive. And thus, they had to live in an entire new civilization above the waters in order to survive. And the same goes on for the rest of the other tribes. Mystery says that most of the Gerudos got wiped out, which is why we don't see them much, well, except Ganondorf, of course. But my theory is that, the rest of the Gerudo tribe, they also got wiped out. Because here's one thing to know. We can definitely say that the Gerudos were pirates. Because in the beginning of Wind Waker, Tetra comments about the Forsaken Fortress, which is the first dungeon we go to in the game. She said that this place used to be a hideout to where this is for a group of pirates that they used to compete with. And we can definitely confirm that the Gerudo were once pirates, thanks to Majora's Mask, of course, for example, in a different timeline. So we can probably say that the Gerudo were competing to be the best pirates out there before they got wiped out. And then, of course, let's move on to the other tribe from Ocarina of Time. What about the Kokiri and the Kokiri Forest? Well, we can say about them is that in order to survive, they also had to evolve into the Koroks. They had to evolve into the Koroks and thus start a new life, a new civilization in both the Forest Haven, which of course we do have the Forbidden Woods next door. But and we can definitely see like how that plays definitely ties into the events of Ocarina of Time, knowing that in the Forbidden Woods, it definitely shares some places and a lot of other interesting things in there. Knowing that this definitely has a connection to the Kokiri Forest, such as seeing the Deku Shield symbol on the doors, seeing little small houses and huts that actually used to belong to the people of the Kokiri tribe, who actually used to live in their homes. Some people theorize that the place where you got the boomerang used to be Saria's house. Back when the hero of time, was still living in the Kokiri Forest. And then finally, we have another tribe. What about the Gorons? Well, for them, we can definitely say that they mostly got wiped out, but I will talk about the merchant in just a minute. We can say that most of their entire population, they got completely wiped out, because we need to keep this in mind. In Ocarina of Time, the Gorons have to thrive on surviving on consuming rocks. And they had their entire food supply of rocks in the Dodongo's Cavern on Death Mountain. And since, of course, the entire flood pretty much blocked the entire cave for them to get any food, the Gorons, they couldn't even survive. They couldn't survive. They needed rocks in order to survive. So they had to pretty much end up starving because they didn't have any food. I mean, what else were they going to eat? They're not going to eat all of Death Mountain. But they actually needed food in order to survive. Which is why probably only a few of them only survived, such as the Goron merchants that we see in some of the side quests. And why they're not showing their faces to just make, they just feel embarrassed just about losing their home. So, we can definitely say that a lot of things happened. A lot of things actually end up happening in this timeline because of the Great Flood of Hyrule. A lot of things actually happened. But, also we do need to keep this in mind as well. Hyrule Castle, the one that we knew back in Ocarina of Time, you guys, is now into the ocean floor. Into the old land of Hyrule that we once knew in Ocarina of Time. The old land of Hyrule from Ocarina of Time, it's completely gone. It's now gone. But the memory of it is still kind of there. And because of the flood, what became of the mountaintops that the king ordered Princess Zelda to inform her people to survive and to evacuate to? Well, let me tell you something else, y'all. So, the mountaintops that we knew, the entire mountaintops where all the people of Hyrule definitely came in order to survive, those places, they became islands. They became islands that we now know in the Wind Waker. And now the entire Great Sea is now surrounded with islands to where many people now starting a new life, a new civilization. And we're getting all these different islands, such as Outset Island, Gale Ring Isle, the Forest Haven, Dragon Roost Island, Windfall Island. All these other islands, we have to state that these actually once were places that were in Ocarina of Time. Because when you do think about it, I definitely want to point something out. And I'm actually going to pull up a map real quick. I'm going to pull up a map real quick because I feel like this is very important. And I do want to point this out. But I'm going to get a map open. Real quick. Real quick. I definitely will get that out in a minute. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and get this map open. Okay. Okay. Alright, this is not what I wanted. Okay. Ah. Here we go. Okay. Perfect. Alright, I'm ready. I'm ready. Okay. And then by looking at Twitch chat real quick, Bev, good morning. Good to see you. Welcome on in. Now, I definitely need to share this with y'all. Let me give y'all some examples real quick. Oh. My webcam does not want to play around with me today. So, let me give y'all an example of some of the islands that once were parts of the map from Ocarina of Time. Let me give y'all a good example. Well, for example, we do have the Kokiri Forest, which is right here on the map. And where is the Forest Haven located? Right here on that entire square. So it definitely does make sense, like how this entire map of the Great Sea used to be the Hyrule we once knew in Ocarina of Time. Now here's another example. Take a look at, let's see. How about Death Mountain? Death Mountain over here. There's Dragon Roost Island right there. And we can definitely talk about Dragon Roost Island. And why I believe this actually used to be the Death Mountain we once knew. Because for starters, 1, it does have a volcano. 2, within the Dragon Roost Cavern, it definitely has some lava in it. But even at the entrance of the cavern, we can see like some paintings that definitely which to me, in my theory, definitely represents the evil dragon Volvagia from Ocarina of Time, the boss of the Fire Temple. And then finally, I'm gonna throw in another one real quick. Let's come over here. The Desert Colossus, the Gerudo Fortress, definitely the home to where the Gerudo resided in, to the west, where they hailed from the west. And by coming over here, this is where the Forsaken Fortress once knew. So definitely knowing this, we can definitely say that when Ganondorf came back to Hyrule, he actually didn't want to leave his own home. So, where else was he gonna stay now that his home is completely flooded? The Gerudo Valley, Gerudo Fortress, the Haunted Wasteland, the Desert Colossus, it's gone. It's completely gone. Completely wiped out from existence. So, Ganondorf had to start a new life, a new civilization, a new place to begin ruling. And thus, of course, he ends up here, right on this little tiny square in the Forsaken Fortress. But that's what I wanted to share with y'all. Now, the thing is, we also need to keep in mind with this one, you guys, that this Ganondorf, according to the King of Hyrule, also known as the King of Red Lions, we need to note one thing. This Ganondorf in the Wind Waker, this is the same one that the Hero of Time fought in combat with in Ocarina of Time. This is the same one, because he stated that after threatening both the Hero of Time, Princess Zelda, and the rest of the sages because of his imprisonment, he said that one day he's going to break out, even though he still inherits the Triforce of Power. So, and in Wind Waker, he still got it. And the reason why, again, earlier, I think that King Daphnis resulted in splitting and breaking apart the Triforce of Courage and the Triforce of Wisdom is to make it a difficult time for Ganondorf to find it. Because he knew that if the Triforce of Courage and the Triforce of Wisdom weren't split, he would find a way to achieve it and to become an evil ruler. An even much more invincible evil king. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. So, now, we knew one thing. I actually want to theorize this in terms of like the whole Great Flood kind of act. Again, we know that the golden goddesses of Hyrule heard the pleas from the people, and thus, of course, since they couldn't fully grant the wish for the king, we knew that they actually flooded the entire land of Hyrule. The people who survived, even though majority of them were killed on that day, they started a new life, a new civilization, and forgot that the old Hyrule ever existed. Because now all the islands is what was left over of the land of Hyrule from Ocarina of Time. So, here's definitely another thing. Ganondorf comes back to Hyrule after his seal is completely broken. But here's another thing. This is definitely something that we need to keep in mind. And the start of Skyward Sword, we know that Demise placed a curse on Link and Zelda from Skyward Sword, saying that a hatred of his incarnation will rise again. And from this day forward, so on in the adult timeline, the curse is still going. The curse still hasn't been broken, because Ganondorf is still around. He's still definitely coming around to claim Hyrule and definitely take it for what he claims to be his. So, and to me, I feel that the golden goddesses from above, they find this entertaining to them, knowing that now that the Hero of Time is gone, the Triforce of Courage is split, we know that this is definitely is the start for a new hero to come into action to take on Ganondorf. And we need to note one thing. The Hero of Winds. Now, can we say that he's a blood descendant of the Hero of Time or some form of spirit in relation to the Hero of Time? No, we cannot. Because again, the Hero of Time fully vanished from the adult timeline since Princess Zelda sent him back home to the child timeline, because he's gone. He's permanently gone. So, Hyrule, in turn, now that Ganondorf is here, they needed a new hero to rise and to challenge Ganondorf, and the gods needed a hero to challenge Ganondorf into a fight. And thus, of course, we turn into entering Link, the Hero of Winds. Again, he's not related to the Hero of Time. He ain't no blood descendant or no spirit or of any kind of the Hero of Time. Because this Link, the Hero of Winds, he's just an ordinary kid. That's all he is. He doesn't have any remembrance of family. He doesn't have any parents to know. We don't know anything about his parents. Well, besides, we know about his grandmother and his sister. I mean, that's the only family that he has. And then, of course, it was stated in the beginning of the opening story in Wind Waker that people who become a certain age must definitely wear the color green in remembrance of the hero of old who defeated Ganondorf in a fight. And the Hero of Winds, Link, this Link right here, he's already become of age, ready to be a grown man, to learn the ways and the value of the hero, even though he's just an ordinary boy. So he becomes of age. He definitely doesn't pretty much not know much about Hyrule's history or what's going on, because he's not related to the Hero of Time. So what happens? Fate chose a 12-year-old boy. Yeah, we got to keep this in mind. That this is definitely is canon about Link's age in Wind Waker. He's only 12 years old. He's 12. So, we have to note that Fate chose the Hero of Winds to act super fast in comparison to the Hero of Time. Because, he was over here celebrating his birthday. He's knowing that he's going to become of age. He knows that he's going to have to learn to become a man somehow. But Fate chose him to act super quickly when his sister ends up getting kidnapped by the Helmrock King, a minion of Ganondorf's. Because we need to note this. Ganondorf has now started a new life and new civilization now that his home is gone. So he had to start a new life, a new civilization since Gerudo Fortress is gone. And we can definitely theorize that the Forsaken Fortress is what was left over of the Gerudo Fortress. We can probably state that in theory. So, what do we need to know now? Because after the events of the Great Flood, so Ganondorf wants to rule Hyrule. So he needs all the pieces of the Triforce to resonate, to come together, so that way he can become the evil king once again, as usual, and just burn Hyrule. So, he sends out the Hammerrock King to go find girls with long pointed ears, because he knows that if he finds the right girl, he knows that he will track down Princess Zelda, because that's his main target. Is that he wants to track down Princess Zelda to find her and to claim her Triforce. But little does he actually know is that Princess Zelda is now in her alter ego form known as the pirate girl Tetra. In this case. So he definitely is on a search. He's on a scavenger hunt and sends his pet bird, the Hammerrock King, to go all across the Great Sea. Excuse me. To go find girls with pointed ears and to see if they actually inherit a piece of the Triforce of Wisdom, so that way he knows where Princess Zelda is. Of course, later on in Wind Waker, sometime after the Hero of Winds actually pulls out a small weakened Master Sword, that thinking that he could definitely strike down Ganondorf with it. Of course, it does nothing, because Ganondorf states that the sword has lost its power. The Master Sword has fully lost its power, because the Hero of Time, again, he's gone. He's completely gone. So in turn, he says, you cannot defeat me with a sword that no longer sparkles. So, during this act, Tetra comes in, definitely steps in to help save Link. And then from there, Ganondorf finds her. Ganondorf finds Zelda, kind of. Now he knows that Tetra is Princess Zelda's alter ego. So now because of this, Tetra now had to go into hiding to prevent Ganondorf from tracking her down. So, of course, with the help of the King of Hyrule, they had to leave her locked into the basement of Hyrule Castle to prevent Ganondorf from finding her. And so, of course, again, fate chose this Link, this Hero of Winds, to act so quickly after his sister got kidnapped. So he has to sail all across the Great Sea with the King of Red Lions, also known as the King of Hyrule, to go fulfill his destiny, even though he has no relation to the Hero of Time. Since, again, he's just an ordinary little boy. And from there, he definitely learns about what he needs to do. He learns about what he needs to do in order to restore the Master Sword to its true power. Because before the events of the Wind Waker, right when the Hero of Time vanished, the Master Sword fully began to lose its power. And thus, they needed the Golden Goddesses, they needed a new hero again to rise and to challenge Ganondorf into a fight. So, we had two sages so far. We have Laruto, the Sage of Earth, who is, of course, Izora. And then we have Fado, the Sage of Wind, who is also a member of the Kokiri tribe. And with them, they were sending prayers and praying over the Master Sword, praying to the gods to make sure the Master Sword is at its full potential, is at its full power. But since Ganondorf came back to Hyrule, what happens to the two sages? He kills them. He kills the Master Sword, and thus the two sages can no longer pray to the gods, knowing that the Master Sword is not going to be at its full power. So, in order to do this, they needed someone, a descendant of them, to take up upon the responsibility of being able to take on this task, to pray to the gods and pray for the Master Sword to regain its true power. Which, of course, in the end, this lies into, of course, Medley, Arito from Dragon Roost Island, who is said to be a descendant of the Earth stage of Naruto right after she died. And then, of course, we also have Fado. We have Makar. We have Makar, the Korok Makar, who is a descendant of the Kokiri sage Fado. Because, of course, we definitely have to keep this in mind. The Koroks were once members of the Kokiri tribe before they fully evolved into a different race. So, the hero wins, goes to both the Earth Temple and the Wind Temple, defeats Ganon's minions, and thus the Master Sword returns to its full power. And now it is a Master Sword that is fully restored. The hero wins can now rise up to take on Ganondorf and to face him to a fight. But first, he needed to get access to Hyrule Castle and had to go on a long quest to go find the 8 pieces of the Triforce of Courage that the Hero of Time once inherited. So, the hero wins definitely obtains. He finds the pieces of the Triforce of Courage. And then from there, he enters Hyrule Castle. And then, of course, breaks a massive blockade that prevents anyone from entering. Ganon's castle. And then from there, it's time for the final showdown. Also, looking at Twitch chat, Bowie, welcome in, buddy. How you doing? So, getting back into this. The hero wins now enters Ganon's tower. So, he goes on a task. He refights the bosses that he fought on the Great Sea in different dungeons and different areas. And then he encounters the evil king. And he even reminds him about the Great Flood, to where he says, and I quote, I hope I'm quoting this right, "Your gods destroyed us." Because, honestly, in the end, he's right. He definitely is right about that. Because, again, King Daphnis made a wish, praying for Ganondorf to meet his demise. But the Golden Goddesses, they couldn't fully grant it because the King of Hyrule didn't have all 3 pieces of the Triforce. He only had 2. So that's why they had to start the Great Flood and to drown all the land of Hyrule, especially sending Ganondorf to go down with it, even though he ends up surviving. So, the hero wins, gets locked into combat against the evil king, and thus we all know he's victorious. But before this fight, the 3 pieces of the Triforce began resonating once again, just like the events of Ocarina of Time. And before Ganondorf decides to place his hand on it, getting able to get his prayer and blessing, stating that he wants Hyrule, the Great Sea, to be destroyed and to completely burn, the King of Hyrule, who made the wish about Ganondorf meeting his demise, steps in and he touches the Triforce. He touches the Triforce, saying a prayer to the gods that now that the old Hyrule is no longer gone, the people don't remember about the old Hyrule. He says a prayer to find a new hope, a new life for both the hero wins and for Princess Zelda, to find a new land that which they can call home. To which later on, we can definitely say that this new land becomes New Hyrule in Spirit Tracks. But he also says now that the king was able to touch the full Triforce, he finally makes his wish to have Ganondorf fully drown with Hyrule. And I definitely want to share with this real quick with you guys, because I feel that that scene about the king, of what he did, is very important to this event. So let me go ahead and find it real quick. Okay, because I actually want to play the scene in regards to like everything that the King of Hyrule did. So let me actually end up finding it. All right, give me 1 second, because I definitely do want to play this. I really want to share it with you guys in this story, because again, I just feel like it's important. Okay. Alright, and not to mention, I'll even read it. I'll even read some of the parts, because I feel that this is very important. Looking at the Twitch chat, is this a podcast about Wind Waker? Yes, it is, Bowie. We are talking about the Great Flood of Hyrule. Yeah, this is a this is definitely about Wind Waker. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay, so now, let's go ahead. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and play this cutscene. I'll even read it so you guys can definitely dive into what I was talking about. So, let's watch this. This is the final scene from Wind Waker before the hero gets locked into combat with the evil king. Let's do it. And I'll even read it. My country lay within the vast desert. When the sun rose into the sky, a burning wind punished my lands, searing the world. And when the moon climbed into the dark of night, a frigid gale pierced our homes. No matter when it came, the wind carried the same thing, death, because he knows that in that great flood, everyone died. But the winds that blew across the green fields of Hyrule brought something other than suffering and ruin. I coveted that wind, I suppose. It can only be called fate. That here I would again gather the three with the crest. That I should lay my hand on that which grants the wishes of the beholder. That when power, wisdom, and courage come together, the gods would have no choice but to come down. He was talking about this earlier, stating that in order for a wish to be fully granted, you need all three pieces in order to have your wish granted by the goddesses. So let's keep going. The power of the gods, the Triforce. And there he goes, he says it. He who touches it will have whatever he desires granted. That's very important. Already the quest of wisdom is mine. All that remains is he has courage. Do not fear, I will not kill you. I merely have need of the power that dwells within you, because we all know Ganondorf only wanted this Triforce of Courage. He wants to make his wish, so in order to get it, now, let us put an end to that which binds us together. So now, like I said, all he wanted was just the pieces of the Triforce in order to get the wish that he wanted. So now it's just all coming together, just like the events of Ocarina of Time. The three pieces of the Triforce are now resonating once again to fully complete the Triforce. Now, this scene when I was talking about with the king touching it, this is important. Gods, hear that which I desire. Expose those lands of the rays of the sun once more. Let them burn forth. Give Hyrule to me. He who touches it will have whatever he desires granted. That is what you said, is it not, Ganondorf? And there's our king. . . Now, this one is very important. Check this out, because this will tie into the events before Phantom Hourglass and for Spirit Tracks. Gods of the Triforce, hear that which I desire. Hope. I desire hope for these children. Give them a future. Wash away this ancient land of Hyrule. Let a ray of hope shine on the future of the world. Since now the Triforce is glowing, the Golden Goddesses have fully accepted this wish. And let our destinies finally be fulfilled. Ganondorf, may you drown with Hyrule. And now we get to see an entire man who is completely broken and has just gone completely insane. Let's look into this. This man is now broken. Okay. Oh, oop. Did not mean to do that. Okay. Alrighty. Alright, so now we knew exactly what I was talking about. So, it's just like Ganondorf said. He who touches the Triforce will have any of his or her own desires granted. They have been fully granted. Now because the King of Hyrule touched it, he prayed for a new hope, a new life for both the Hyrule Winds and for Zelda to start a new civilization, to find a new land to which they call home. Because when Ganondorf started becoming a broken man with that laugh he did, he knew that he definitely was going to meet his end. He had a feeling that his time was going to come. And then later on, after the Evil King is defeated, the Evil King is defeated. Now, a new life is definitely slowly beginning for both the Hero Winds and for Zelda by playing this scene right here. We're gonna definitely dive into that. But first, hang on a minute. Hang on. Let's go ahead and turn this off real quick. Give me a second. And then looking at Twitch chat, yo Spider, welcome in, buddy. How you doing? Okay. So we're going to come into right here, because this one is important. Right here. This scene. Oh, no, not that. Not what I wanted. Wow. Okay, more chicken, please. Okay. Right here. This is important. My children, listen to me. I have lived regretting the past, and I have faced those regrets. If only I could do things over again. Not a day of my life has gone by without my thoughts turning to my kingdom of old. I have lived bound to Hyrule. In that sense, I was the same as Ganondorf. But you, I want you to live for the future, just as the King of Hyrule prayed upon by using his wish on the Triforce. There may be nothing left for you. But despite that, you must look forward and walk a path of hope, trusting that it will sustain you when darkness comes. Farewell. This is the only world that you and your ancestors were able to leave you. Of course, he's talking about the ancestors of the Hero of Time. That who is definitely is what the King of Hyrule is referring to. Is the ancestors of the Hero of Time. Since the Hero of Time is no longer, because we got to keep in mind, y'all, the Hero of Time for this timeline, he's gone since he went back to his home. So I'll let this play out and then we'll read the important part. See, oh, look at that. Okay, that's another one. The land will be the next Hyrule. Of course, Zelda is stating that this will be the future new Hyrule that will later be discovered in Spirit Tracks. But child, that land will not be Hyrule. It will be your land. It will be your land. So, this definitely is tying in as to what the King of Hyrule wanted. Definitely preying upon the golden goddesses, so that where this new hero, the Hero of Winds, and Princess Zelda can start a new life. Says now that of course the golden goddesses fully couldn't answer to the King of Hyrule's first wish, since he only had two pieces of the Triforce. The golden goddesses fully couldn't answer they couldn't fully answer his wish. So the three golden goddesses, they had to fully obey their own laws that they created. So that's why the whole Great Flood was started. That's why we have new deities, ruling over some parts of the Great Sea, such as of course in the Forest Haven we do have the Great Deku Tree, who to us is theorized to definitely be the Deku Tree sprout that definitely was first encountered by the Hero of Time after he held Saria in the Forest Temple. Then we also have the Sky Spirit of Alu, who hails up on top of Dragonroot's Island. And then finally, we do have Great Fish Isle, a home to which I theorize actually once belonged to the Zoras before they had to evolve into Ritos and to find new life, a new civilization. Once they actually turned into Rito, grabbed scales from Velu, and sprouted wings in order to start a new life. Because I'm guessing that the Great Fish Isle that we know in the Wind Waker, it once used to be a home to the Zoras before the events of the Great Flood, which is why they had a guardian deity to protect them, Jabun, which theorizing he could probably be a descendant or an ancestor of their other god who is no longer around, Lord Jabu Jabu from Ocarina of Time. But since it was Ganondorf who actually attacked that area, Jabun actually had to escape, which he later ends up surviving, and ends up residing on the Hero of Wind's home on Outset Island. So, it definitely says a lot. So after the events of the Wind Waker, Ganondorf is defeated once again, just like the King of Hyrule wished and prayed upon. He wants this new hero and the princess to start a new life, a new civilization. That because of the Great Flood, the Golden Goddesses, they couldn't do much. They couldn't have the evil king meet his demise, because the King of Hyrule did not have all the pieces of the Triforce. And now that the King of Hyrule was able to touch it, just like what we saw earlier in the cutscene that we watched, now the prayers have been granted. Ganondorf has been defeated. The hero wins, and Tetra and the pirate crew, they definitely set forth and sail off into the Great Sea to do something that was requested by the King of Hyrule before the king goes down with his kingdom. And that is to find a new land to which they call home, to which later on it becomes a new Hyrule after the events of Phantom Hourglass and diving in to Spirit Tracks, which is then started by a new Link, which of course the game starts off with a new Link, not the hero wins, since we don't know about what happened to the hero wins, or to touch on the rest of the pirate crew. We don't know what happened to them. But to mostly think about this, y'all, the Great Flood is one of Hyrule's important history marks in the adult timeline. It is definitely very, very important. Definitely very important since, of course, again, the hero time is gone because he went back to his own timeline. He went back to his own timeline since Hyrule didn't need a hero at that time, and Ganondorf was just sealed away. So, this Great Flood was the result of starting something new to prevent Ganondorf from coming into Hyrule, to prevent him from actually attacking this land. But, in the end, he fails. Because a new hero had to stand up and rise. When the hero time was gone. So the hero wins. He had to take over. Even though he's not a blood descendant of the hero of time. Or not even is the hero of time spirit is within this Link, the hero wins. Again, he's just an ordinary kid. That's all he is. Spider in Twitch chat says, time travel confirmed. Yes. So Spider, at the end of Ocarina of Time, after the hero of time defeats Ganondorf in the fight, Zelda sends Link, the hero of time, back in time to reclaim the 7 years that he lost. To which thus she sends him back to the child timeline. And because the hero of time is gone, and Hyrule doesn't need him anymore because they think, okay, Ganondorf is sealed away, so everything's going to be fine. But they did not realize that this definitely was going to be the seal placed on Ganondorf wasn't going to last long. Which is why in return at the start of Wind Waker, after the Great Flood, or before the events of the Great Flood. Yeah, there you go. Before the events of the Great Flood, Ganondorf breaks free from his prison. So, yes, Spider, yes. Time traveling is confirmed throughout the Zelda series. Because keep in mind, Ocarina of Time is the game that is responsible for the 3 timeline split. Because the hero of time, after pulling out the Master Sword from the pedestal of time, and was able to traverse both into the past and to the future, this caused the timeline to split into 3. So, I hope that answers your question, Spider. So yes, that definitely is a lot to say about the Great Flood of Hyrule, though. Honestly, one of the most greatest and most interesting stories to talk about. Hyrule's Great Flood is said to be one of the well-known stories in the Zelda series, thus mostly among the adult timeline. And it definitely is a great one. It definitely is a great one, especially to all the people out there who really love Wind Waker, such as myself. Which is why I chose to wear my Wind Waker cap and my Wind Waker shirt. There you go, you kind of see his head. But that is definitely what I have to say about Hyrule's Great Flood. So, now that I definitely have went over pretty much almost everything, I can definitely say without a doubt that this is definitely all the time that I have. Since now we went over everything, I already explained to you guys about what happened during the Great Flood, how it all started, what Ganondorf actually did in order to try to take over Hyrule, going on a huge scavenger hunt to find the other pieces of the Triforce, so that way they can resonate once again, just like during the final battle that he had with the Hero of Time in Ocarina of Time. So, I definitely have said a lot so far. But anyway, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of my Zelda podcast, the Kokiri Chronicles. And also, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, please don't forget to do the following by liking, sharing, subscribing. Most importantly, come say hi to me on Twitch. I go under the same name on Twitch, Born of Kokiri. I stream every Monday through Thursday at 7 p.m. Central. So definitely come say hello. I definitely would love to meet you. So, next time, in the month of June, for episode 5 of the Zelda podcast, the Kokiri Chronicles, I'm going to tell you guys what the next topic is. The next topic for June for episode 5, I am not going to be alone for this one. I am going to be joined by friends, as together, we are going to discuss about the tragedy of the Hero of Time. We're going to talk about the story of the Hero of Time and his rise and falling. And speaking about like what happened to him throughout all 3 different parts of the timeline. So tune in next month on June 3rd, as that is what we will be talking about for next month, is the tragedy of the Hero of Time. But anyway, y'all, this has been the Zelda podcast, the Kokiri Chronicles. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Once again, be sure to come out and say hi to me on Twitch, over on the same name, Border Kokiri. But also, if you are a Zelda fan, if you love the Wind Waker, let me know how many of you. Let me know in the YouTube comments how many of you guys are Wind Waker fans out there. I definitely would like to get to know y'all. Definitely let me know how much you love Wind Waker and what are your thoughts on today's topic that we talked about today. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Definitely subscribe if you are a Zelda fan, and also if you love the Wind Waker. So until next time, thank you everybody for tuning in to today's episode of the Zelda podcast, the Kokiri Chronicles. I'm Born of Kokiri, or Kokiri for short, and I will see you all next time. Take care.